Hello, everyone, and welcome to ABG, Asian Boss Girl, a podcast for the modern-day Asian American woman. My name is Helen.
I'm Janet.
And I'm Mel.
So this is a bit of a raunchy title, Does Your Personality Fit My Vagina? But it's a way for us to bring up a topic about first dates. What should you do or not do on a first date? We have some people writing into us about dating advice, what our deal makers and deal breakers are. Some of this stuff may be blatantly obvious, but there are some people out there who might not know. Okay, so ladies, say you're already in a texting situation, right? Mm-hmm. You've already met him maybe at like a yoga studio or on Tinder, Grindr, whatever.
In a line for the buffet.
So what is your preference for how he or she initiates the first date?
Let's go to our online dater queen.
Oh,
Janet.
I don't know that I like that title, but
Sorry.
Let's see. So how do I prefer to be asked out, essentially,
Yes,
right?
you guys are already talking.
Yes. Well, first of all, I always prefer the guy to initiate. I don't think I've ever asked to meet up with someone. And usually how it works with online dating is you have enough conversation going where, actually, no, I feel like there's two ways. Some people like to be super efficient, and it's like as long as they know some basic things about you, they'd rather meet up sooner than later because they know that if there's no chemistry, then there's no point in like getting to know each other, right?
Okay.
Other people, they want to have like more thorough conversations and maybe talk for like a couple sessions, and then they'll ask you out. So I don't care for either. I don't ever want to initiate. I want the guy to lead. And this is a broader topic of everything from the first couple of dates. I'd rather the man lead. And maybe that's a little traditional of me, but it's my personal preference. How about you ladies?
I usually like the guy to ask me through text to go on a date. I think that's how everyone does it nowadays, right?
I think so too. So I haven't been on a lot of first dates like in my life or recently.
Yeah, same.
But the last one that I was on, he just said, hey, would you like to go on a date? I was like, oh, sure. And then he would actually pick a place, right? So instead of keeping it open, like, oh, where do you want to go? And I'm like,
that is a big pet peeve of mine.
Yeah,
I've had that
it's
happen.
like,
Yeah.
Pick something that's convenient for me, maybe, if you're actually thinking about me and wanting to go out with me. And depending on the conversation you've had before, it could be like, I don't know, McDonald's, if you've already like kind of talked about that before, or it could be like a nicer place for like drinks or something like that. And it's nice when they initiate and they say, okay, well, are you free Friday evening after work? And we can meet there because it's close to your work.
That's
So
nice.
I feel like that's probably the best way for a guy to ask one out.
For me, a guy one time suggested to go to the beach on our first outing, and I was like, no, I don't know how to like say no because I'm not going to show my half-naked body to you on our first date because I think it could come off kind of that you're implying something, so I kind of turned that option down. I was like, why don't we grab dinner?
Well, clearly he just wants to show you his pecs.
I think
It could
so
be,
too.
yeah. He might be like...
I mean, I don't mind, but not on the first date. But it's also hard. I don't know if you guys encountered this, but that guy I was dating, he didn't know the area very well. Like I knew it more than him, so it's like, how do I go about? You guys know me. I like to plan. So when he doesn't know what's around here and I do, how do I relinquish that control, I guess?
Yeah. Well, I mean, in that situation, did he suggest things and then you had a way to counter, or was it...
Well, he suggested the beach. So what did you say to
and then you
counter
said
that?
no, and then what was did you wait for him to come back with other options, or were you like, hey, how about this instead?
I'm trying to think about it. Oh, yeah. So I was like, oh, haha, that sounds like fun. But I don't know. Maybe let's do dinner instead. And then
That's a good way to
suggested
turn it
dinner.
around, yeah.
And then I kind of gave him where I lived. And the part of it when he was saying like, oh, I don't really know what's around the area, blah, blah, blah. I just moved back. That's when I started throwing out like, this is a good restaurant. Oh, this is a good place to drink. And I said, that's it. You plan the rest.
Yeah.
Oh, so you're very straightforward. You're
But
like,
I- you know,
you
but
got
I-
this now.
But I texted it saying like, oh, that's it. You plan the rest now. Winky face. Like, making sure he
You
was
tried
like,
to make it like kind of flirty.
Exactly.
And, like, so I guess that's like a personality thing. Like for me, I don't want to give anything because I want to see what he comes up with. Right. And I don't know that that's actually necessarily the best because the first date, if someone picks a super nice restaurant, like that actually is kind of it feels like more of a newbie move because
Yes.
if you're going on a lot of first dates, it gets fucking expensive, you know?
Right,
So you
right.
probably like the better thing is go for drinks, or nowadays a lot of I think people get kind of like they're looking for a non-alcohol focused option as well. So coffee
Oh, really?
sometimes.
Oh,
yeah.
hell no. I need alcohol
Yeah,
on my
yeah, to
first
loosen
dates.
up.
Here's the thing. So I feel like I've gone back and forth with this because drinks are easier if you're working a full-time job and you need to meet up after, right? And if dinner is like too much of a commitment,
Right.
drinks is the automatic thing.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of people who are like, because you're a little bit nervous, you might drink a little bit more than you would. You might drink. You're not gonna get like shit faced, but how you perceive someone and how your chemistry is after like 2 drinks may be very different than
No
when you're
drink.
sober. And hopefully, if you're dating, most of the time you guys are sober together, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of hard to like figure out what's a good way to meet up. But yeah, I want the guy to pick the place and for him to do the planning because it's a way to assess how he plans. And I think that in a relationship, that's pretty important, right? Like, is he asking where are you coming from? Is he saying like, what are foods that you like to eat or, that kind of stuff?
That's true. That's like
That's
the
true.
first test for a guy.
Yeah.
To see if he's actually thinking about your needs and what's convenient for you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Wait, so to counter that, because I'm thinking about all my first dates, and actually all the guys I went on first dates with have asked me, like, what do you like to do? Or what do you like to eat? Like, any allergies or whatever. Have you ever had a guy not ask you that? And you're like, what the fuck?
I mean, usually is a place that's like not too controversial, right?
Yeah. They have some safe options. Or they'll throw out like a couple of options. I actually think that's the best way to do it is as a guy, you're like, you assess kind of the logistics, like where are they located, where are they coming from? And then you give maybe 2 or 3 like cuisine type options. Or if they're drinks, like types of bars, like more of a little bit more divey, a little bit nicer, a little bit, like so that you see what she picks.
That's true. That's probably the best way to
Yeah.
approach it. I mean, back to what you were saying before, I think it's nice if a guy does take you out to like a nice dinner and you know that, this is probably not the norm, then you feel a little bit
You feel special,
about
yeah.
it, right? I think so the last date that I was on, the guy brought me to like a seafood restaurant, but just the bar area.
Oh.
And that turned out really nice and it was fun. And then afterwards he was like, oh, do you want to go grab a bite to eat? And then we went to Sugarfish. I was like, oh, okay.
nice.
It's better that you go to drinks first. And if it
Yes.
actually kind of
It
works
works
out,
out,
then you go to dinner.
I agree. Actually, that's how a couple of my dates have worked more recently as well. Yeah, you do drinks before, but it's early enough in the evening that dinner is still possible if it works out well and you want to continue hanging out.
I was totally imagining Helen at the bar at first, like drinking, and she like sees all the like this platter of seafood and thinking like, hello, are you gonna order one for me or what?
I was like, can we get some oysters here? Like,
I was like, what do you like to drink? Can I get a shot of Jameson and a side of lobster tail?
so one of my first dates, this is why I like have to drink on my first date because I'm so nervous. I hadn't gone on a date in a long time, and this was like maybe 2-3 years ago now. I was really, really nervous, and I was already running a little bit late to the restaurant. He picked a sushi restaurant, and I knew there was also going to be no alcohol there, so that made me like even more nervous because I was like, oh, that's not going to calm my nerves. Like, what's going to? While I was driving there, I started sweating. But like when you're nervous and you sweat, there's like a different smell to that sweat versus like a gym sweat. So it started smelling really bad, and I didn't have like deodorant. I usually don't need deodorant. And so when I started smelling that, I was like, oh shit, this is coming from like a really deep place. And so I called my sister and I was like, Annie, what do I do? I'm already running late. I can't like stop by like a gas station or something to get deodorant. And she was like, do you have car freshener? So I was like, car freshener.
MacGyvering this. This is good.
I'm like, yes, I do, but it smells like guava.
That sounds great.
Yeah. And so she was like, okay, well, try and rub that all over yourself. So I did, but like, I guess that it's like the little balls, the little pellets that aren't like, it's not really gonna like rub off on you.
Yeah.
So I tried to like make it moist and like rub it more on me, but it didn't really work. And then she was like, do you have gum? And I was like, gum. I do have minty gum. So I was chewing gum and I took it out and I
rubbed it under your
smeared
pits.
it all over my armpits.
And did it work?
It did actually work. I think it did. But then when that like first interaction of when you meet the person, I like definitely went in for like a very non-touchy hug. It's like don't get close to me.
First, like instead of an overhug, it's like underneath the hug.
Just do a shoulder tap. Hey.
Oh man.
Yeah, no, I get like really nervous for first dates. Ugh. I just even thinking about it, I'm like, ugh.
I could totally relate. I need a drink on a first date. You guys were probably there when I was prepping for one of my recent first dates, and I get so nervous. Like I start shaking, and then I get extremely gassy. I'm like, and I'm literally like thinking like the nervous I get, the type of gassy nerves I get isn't from like I'm gonna burp. I'm like fuck, I'm gonna fart. I'm just like,
excuse yourself to the bathroom every couple of minutes.
I try to hold it in. I'm like, go back in my body.
Or you
please.
suggest going to a loud place so that, you know.
I never thought about, but because that first date he picked me up, I'm like, damn, leather
Oh,
seats, like it's gonna be a good
I know, it's
combination.
just,
So I'm like,
car seat, not me.
I'm just crossing my legs, like hoping like the fart just goes back in my body.
And you know those when you like hold it in, it comes out like extra loud.
Yeah.
You can't hold it in.
Wait, Janet, don't you get like gas? Do you get anything?
So I feel like, I don't think this is a good thing, but I've been on so many first dates now that like I feel like I'm a little bit immune to it. But in the beginning, yes. And if I have not been dating for quite a period, then I get like nervous. But I feel like now at this point, like I'll need a drink more if I'm bored than if I.
Oh, she's so calloused to it now.
So
Yeah.
and because I'd rather, you know, like, yeah, I don't get like so nervous anymore. And then when we meet up, if it's like, if I can already tell from because you can read a lot from a person just from the first like 2 minutes. And if in the first 2 minutes I'm like, because I'm not going to be rude and like peace out from the date. So then I'll be like, can I get a glass of wine to like get through this date?
So let's talk about that. Let's talk about the first moment that you see him.
Ooh, okay, sorry.
Okay. Mel's way too excited about this. All right. So you see him. You guys make eye contact, right?
Uh-huh.
And you start walking towards each other. You get a little smiley or whatever. How do you first touch? Is
What do you prefer? Yeah.
What
That's
do
a
you
good question.
prefer? Is it like you go in for a hug, but then what kind of hug? Is it like a side hug? Is it like a tight hug? Is it like a full frontal, like everything's touching hug? Or is it like a just above your chest touching kind of hug?
I think it depends on like are you guys meeting or is he picking you up? Like all my first dates have been different. For example, one of my earliest first dates, he picked me up and so he was in the car already. I don't think we hugged. It was like, oh hey, what's that? And then we just talked.
Oh.
Because how do you
Not even in the
Right,
car?
when he's like in the driver's seat.
Because he's like literally in the middle of the road. Like he wasn't parked.
Okay.
So there's like no time.
There's no time to like really hug. The second time was at a restaurant, and so I think he like got up from his seat because I was running late, and he gave me like a awkward first. Hey, I don't know you hug, but then
like a just barely touching your shoulders.
yeah, and then I actually thought my most recent first date was the best. He parked his car, so he was outside his car waiting for me, and I just had this like K-drama moment. I came outside, and I was like, dang, like he was like leaned against the car, and I was like, damn, this is like K-pop drama scene. And, like everything was like slow mo.
And you're the protagonist in it.
I am, and I know what that means now. So I think it really depends on how he picks you up.
Yeah,
or like
yeah.
if you guys meet at a bar, like what happens.
I would agree. And I would actually say because most of my first dates have been through like online dating, it's the first time I'm actually seeing them in person.
Oh.
And so my interaction will be a reflection of how attracted I am to. Because it happens so quickly, like I'm not thinking about it, right? And that's actually a good way for me to gauge. Because there have been a lot of times where like we make eye contact and I was like, oh, I'm like, I don't think he's my type.
Oh, no.
And then I'll go in for a handshake.
Oh my God, no, you don't.
I've
Are you
gone,
serious?
I've gone in for a handshake. But if I'm really
that is-
if I'm really attracted, then I will go in for a hug. And then I don't mind having a full like it's like I'm hugging a friend kind of thing.
That
right?
is harsh.
But yeah, I've definitely had ones where I was like, nice to meet you. There's not going to be a second date. You know?
Oh my god.
Wait, so would you stay and like still talk?
Yeah, I would
to
still,
him?
because like to the point, I don't want to be rude, and if we've already
Right.
made arrangements to like hang out or whatever, we'll do that. And it could, I was gonna say it could turn into something, but almost never.
Does he go
if
in for a hug and then you're just like, oh no?
I've had
handshake?
that happen. Yeah,
I
but
think
like, most of the time they wait for the woman to lead. I feel like, and so
Okay.
if I've already extended out a hand, it's like
That's hella formal, dude. Hi, thanks for meeting me.
Wait,
for-
but you've already seen pictures of him. You've already
Yeah.
probably like fully stalked as much as you can.
Done some
about him,
research,
right?
yeah. But you know, there's
so-
some things you don't read until you meet someone in person.
Like what?
Right? So one of the things,
Okay.
and this people might judge me as being superficial, but height. Not everyone reveals their height on the
yeah.
apps, and I also, if they don't offer you that information, it could be offensive if I ask that. Which in
Yeah.
hindsight now I'm kind of like, maybe I should just ask it because if I know it's a deal breaker for me, right?
Yeah.
But so because I don't ask that, sometimes I'll meet them and like it's not just height, it's like a build thing or how they're walking or how they're carrying themselves. Some guys like in their photos they look like they would be fairly tall, and then
Elongated, sure.
me and it's like you're my height, and I'm like,
But I've heard many times too, like guys sometimes put down the wrong height. Like I've heard that.
oh yeah, they'll
way
fib
too many
it a lot.
times.
Yeah.
That's so clear that you're not that height when
Yeah.
they meet you.
Yeah.
Like own up to it, or just don't put it on your profile, right?
Yeah.
I don't understand that. All right, guys, don't do that.
All right, ladies. So now we're on this first date. let's be real, he's talking, but you're actually checking him out. What are things that are kind of jumping out of you when you're on the first date? Like physically. Let's be real about this. Like, I can start off. I'm fucking weird. I look at a guy's hands.
I don't think that's weird. I have a hand thing as well.
But like for me, I'm like, does he have veins? Like,
Does he have veins?
Wait, is that a good thing or a bad thing if he has
thing.
veins?
It's like he's
okay.
like, I mean, I'm not super physical. Like, I don't work out all the time or at all. But like, if he has veins, I should like shows a kind of sign of
Feels strong.
masculinity.
Okay,
Yeah,
so he's
yeah.
not like a soft.
I
he
don't.
doesn't have soft
And I look
hands.
at a guy's nails. That's really weird.
I mean, that's
That's
fair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I have seen like my guy friends, some of them have really feminine long fingers and like long nails.
Like,
I'm
ooh,
just-
I don't want you touching me with
Exactly.
this.
Yeah.
You're thinking this is a hand that's gonna touch me.
Right.
It's gonna
Okay.
hold my hand.
That's legit. I would.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Or also, if he's like not well manicured, it's like if you have dirt under your nails and stuff. Oh, that's
That's kind of
red.
like
I can't.
that's kind of like first base looking at someone's package. It's like the hands are going to lead to something as well.
Yeah, and I also look at forearms because of that too.
Okay. Yeah.
okay.
That makes
Because
sense.
it's just like it's for me, it's a sign of masculinity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there anything like any weird things? You
I
guys
mean,
look at?
I would say like teeth is a big thing.
Yeah.
Like, or if it's like super like yellow or whatever, it's like then it kind of like I kind of jump to like, do you smoke or do you like
Yeah.
do drugs or like what is it that you do that is causing that?
Totally.
Like there's something wrong with your health.
Those are all fair
Terrible.
assessments.
That's
And,
true.
and to Mel's like hand point, like you're gonna be kissing him at some point. So if you're like, I
Right.
don't want to be around that.
My
that's
tongue
a
ain't
problem.
going in there.
Ew.
Janet, what do you notice?
What else? I was gonna say like how someone dresses because it could be a sign of their style, but I think a lot of the dates I've gone on are after work, so they're wearing more like work attire.
hair. I look at hair, but
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. I feel like all the guys I've been interested in have the same type of hair. It's just like little comb over thingy.
Yeah, like the style right now.
Yeah. Check out his ass on his first date.
No, because we were sitting, so you can't check it.
Yeah.
I mean, I would.
I do look at style though.
Like what they're
Yeah,
wearing.
it does matter. I think to some degree, it's like I like a guy who can dress decent. Like
Right.
I'm not saying you have to look like Michael B. Jordan or something, but you have to like know how to wear like a plain tee and jeans or something.
Yeah. So now we've discussed the conversation or kind of like first impression of just like the physical. Now you're in the date, you're maybe 20, 30 minutes in, you've ordered your drinks or your coffee or your food. How would you describe the flow of conversation or things that you're looking for, things that are turnoffs?
I mean, I feel like obviously they have to be engaged, right? Like ask questions, be interested, be
Yeah.
engaged. That's like basic dating like
Yeah.
skills to have. Other than like the last two first dates I've been on, I haven't been on too many, but I feel like everything is super surface level because
Yes.
at the same time you're trying to learn about each
Yep.
other. So you're gonna ask questions about like, oh, your past and what schools you went to, how's
Yeah.
high school, how's college, all this like basic stuff. But like the better dates are when you get past that. Because after a certain point, you're kind of just like, oh, okay, kind of running out of things to say.
Yeah.
Right. I feel like one good question might be like, when was the last time you cried?
Oh,
Because
yeah.
it gets into more deep and personal stories, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like what actually matters to you, or what actually drives those emotions.
Yeah, I think going along for me of my my approach of wanting the guy to take the lead in setting up the date, I also like him to take the lead in the conversation for the first couple. So usually it's like if I'm on a date with a guy and he's very quiet, then I'm not. Yeah. So I'm like, I want you to engage, and I will engage if I see that there's an absence from his side. But usually to me that's a sign like. Ooh, like I don't, I want you to be able to know how to handle conversation, and then and it's even better if they're going past the like typical questions and asking you real meaningful stuff. And then also when you ask them questions, is it a conversation versus just like you ask them like, oh, so what do you do for work, and it's like 2 sentences and then silence. You know, then that gets like really uncomfortable. You're like, okay, next, is this an interview? Like I'll just ask you another question.
I think I'm like Janet too. I like to see if the guy can lead the conversation, but I'm not afraid to insert myself, and I take control of the conversation.
Yeah.
But I have to say, like, when I'm like testing him out to see if he'll like lead, the last date I went on, he went on for a while, and I was like, okay, my turn, and I would like start out like talking. I think he was nervous, but which is fine.
So you just keep
because after the
talking,
first date it was fine, but
Yeah.
I was like, it's my turn to talk.
Right. Or I almost feel like people have like certain like topics that they always bring up, or certain stories that are like hits with first dates. So they always talk about those.
I ask, what is your personality type? I actually bring up Myers-Briggs, and I bring up love language, because those are things I could kind of gauge. Like, okay, I don't work well with a really extreme introvert, and I don't work well with people who are extremely logical, because in that way I know my personality, that doesn't mesh well.
Yeah,
So I will ask you, what is your personality type? all right, so like tell me more about this, and then we kind of go on tangents from that. But he said to me, he was like, I kind of feel like I'm gonna interview, because I keep asking these type of questions, really behavioral type questions, but it helps you narrow in into what this guy represents or what he is.
Right.
Yeah, like what else are you going to talk about? Like, oh, I like puppies. Oh, me too. Oh, good. But what if you're like, if you're serious about getting into a relationship versus the guy is just casually dating? Is that something I feel like a lot of people are just casually dating out there, right? But like, that's a very distinct difference between someone who's casually versus like someone who's serious. And I feel like the older that you get, it's like there's not a lot of like casual dating going on anymore.
Right.
So how do you bring that up so that, but at the same time, you're not like, oh, I'm ready to marry you. It's just like, it's just a question.
Yeah.
But there's some weight to that question that might make it a little awkward.
I bring it up.
You do?
I bring it up to the guy. I ask him, like, what is your deal with this? Because I don't want to waste my time. And it's more like, are you here to hang out or have fun? Because I know some people who do that. Or are you here to maybe find a connection? Yeah. And just use less touchy words, you know? Like, are you here to find a wife?
Yeah, you have to be, you don't want to scare someone off, but at the same time, you want to figure out, you don't want to waste each other's time.
Exactly.
I think for me, because I am a little bit older, most of the dates I've gone on it's like pretty much assumed. But if I were to bring it up, it probably would happen after I assess which maybe seems backwards, but usually, I feel like it's all the ones I've been on have been with like older guys who are looking for something serious.
I wonder if then you go into like, so childcare. So I feel like, I don't know if for guys that's like a boner killer. This is like, oh, that's what you're going to talk about during this first date.
What you can do is you can talk about like friends having kids, right? And then, so you make
the strategy.
Or like asking like, oh, do you, like, so my cousin has a baby, right? And so I might be like, oh my God, my niece is so adorable. And we'll like talk about that and be like, oh, so do you have any like nieces or nephews? And then that can lead into, oh, like, you know, so someday when I have kids, I want this. You share your thing first and then see how he would respond. Wow. Same with like marriage or like future living situations. You can bring it up where it's like it's about that topic, and then it's interesting if the guy shares like what he would imagine, because some guys actually do. I've been on dates where they'll share like, oh yeah, when I have kids, I definitely want, you know, like for college, I want them to like leave the hometown or something like that, or like, oh, for my wedding, I don't care, I don't know, like so many things, but I know for sure I want like, I don't know, something at the point. So
she's a pro.
I know. I'm taking notes. We talked about, you know, what we'd bring up in conversation with the guy on the first date. What are some big no's in the conversation?
The last date that I went on, so I met him in college. Okay. He was just visiting LA and he had Facebooked me and asked me out then. So during college though, he had a girlfriend and they were super cute together. Like all 4 years they were together, and I was like, oh wow, they're for sure gonna get married. I think maybe I had brought it up during the date, like, oh, what happened to that relationship? But then the way that he talked about it was like very longingly. Like,
oh, like he's not over it.
Yeah. And then from that point on, I was like, okay, there's for sure not going to be anything here, because there's definitely still baggage left over. So it's already been like 8 years after college. So I was like, the fact that you're still kind of like thinking in this way about her, like, I don't think it could work anymore.
Yeah, that's true. I think a lot of people say that that's a taboo topic for the first date, to talk about past relationships, but I actually would prefer to talk about it and bring it up, because then you can assess pretty initially, like if something is like not.
Yeah, and if I had brought it up and it was kind of just like, oh yeah, that was like a thing, like, oh cool, like he's moved past it. But yeah, definitely a good like test to see how they react.
That's a good point. This is so random, but when my first dates, he told me how he smokes pot every morning, and I was like, okay. I mean, that's cool, dude, but that's not my lifestyle. Yeah. And I was like, this is nope,
deal breaker.
Yeah. I recently had a date where when we met up, I was like, this is not, I don't know that we are going to have a second date, but we committed to dinner. So it's like through dinner and you're having conversation, and he likes to travel, but is like a very type A planner. And we seriously had like a 25 to 30 minute conversation about credit card points. It was like a tangent from just talking about where you travel, different things. I was like, isn't it obvious? Like, I don't really care. Like, yeah, we talked about it for like a couple of minutes, but he just kept going on and like, oh yeah, this card and this. I was like, oh my God, can you read like body language and things like, this is not a topic I'm interested in. So that's not so much a topic, it's more of just like
social cues.
Yeah, social cues. Like on a first date, like be able to read if someone is not, you know, it's the same thing for, you know, Mel, when you were like, okay, if they're just talking about themselves the whole time, and it's like, don't you want to are you interested in getting to know me?
So I think like big no's on a first date depends on the person, right?
Yeah.
For me, I realize I don't really match well with men that have no strong desire to pursue outside projects or like have strong passions about other things besides their 9 to 5, and then all they care about is just making the money. If that's what they value, that's fine. But I went on a date with this guy, and you could just tell all he cared about was making money, climbing up that corporate ladder, and that was it. And I was like, you know, like I think it's great for you, but then I resonate more with someone that wants to chase other things.
Yeah.
So I knew right away this isn't gonna work. And he was going to grad school at the time, like business school, and he was so excited. And I'm like, oh, that's awesome to, you know, pursue higher learning. But you could tell that was his in with a lot of women. I was like, it's great, but I'm not dropping my panties for you.
Right,
you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I also think that dating is very much predicated on what your immediate past relationship was kind of like, because that's your closest comparison, right? So if that person was not a good listener and this guy that you're dating now is a super good listener, then that whole like interaction is going to feel like he's a better guy than your past, or you're going to give him more credibility, because everything's sort of like in context.
So I think because I've been on a number of first dates now, I've learned that it's really challenging to come up with like universal no's. It's very like dependent on that person. It's hard, like if you have one first date and then you have the second, they can be so different. Like I've been on dates where like the first time I was like, oh, this is awesome, and like I'm so excited for the second time, and then the second time it's like you know, or like we had a first date and it was like lackluster, and then like we went on a second, it was much better. So yeah, I've learned, I try to like not judge so quickly when it comes to like conversational aspects. But the physical thing, maybe that's superficial, but I do think that if there's something about the initial attraction, and if it's not there, it's very challenging to build. So that is something I will kind of be more final about in the first meeting.
And you will get a handshake, Janet. Oh, hello. Let me touch your hand. And that is it. Burn.
How about the topic of paying for the bill? I know that's something that is a little bit contentious, because some people are like, they want the guy to pay, and nowadays people are like, it should be 50-50.
I totally do the classic, I'm going to grab my wallet and see what he says.
Yeah.
But I do prefer for the guy to pay on the first date.
I totally agree.
But let's just say we enjoy each other's company. We want to go grab dessert. I don't mind paying for dessert.
Yeah.
But I think for the meal or whatever, the first thing the guy should pay.
I think it also depends on like who's asking who out on the date, right? So if someone is asking me out on a date, then you better pay for that shit.
Right.
And then afterwards, and I'll pay for dessert or whatever. And then maybe the second date, I can say like, do you want to go to this restaurant? And then I would be more than happy to pay for it. But I think it is nice when it's still, I know it's like very traditional, and nowadays it's all about quality and 50-50, but it is still a nice gesture for whoever asks. And usually the guy asks first that they pay.
I totally agree. Yeah. And but I same with Mel. I will always offer. And I don't know if this is kind of a Chinese thing, because you guys know that
That's
you always fight for the bill, right? Or
Yeah.
you split or you fight for the bill. And so I will always offer. And actually it's assigned to me how the guy responds. Because I've had some guys who are like, okay. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
But I always prefer that he still, to your point, Helen, like if he's asked you out, that he should be okay with.
Or what if you know that it was a bad date and you don't want him to see you as anything more than a friend? Then you force that paying.
Oh, really?
You force paying.
That similar to the handshake at the end for me. That is another. Because I will do the first offer, and then if he says no, I will then let him pay. If I've enjoyed his company, or if I know that I want a second date. If I know for sure it's not going anywhere, and I feel like we haven't. Like, he might still think there would be a second date, then I'm like, no, really, let's do this 50-50. Because I don't want to feel like I owe him.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Damn. I'm learning all the Janet's like burn rules. Another thing I pay attention to is how, let's say we're at a restaurant or at a date at a mall or whatever, I see how he interacts with people. Because I don't want to be treating people like our waiter rude.
Right.
Or, you know, like a salesperson or whatever.
Right. Yeah, no, that's huge. I do think that the way a guy treats a waiter, it's a good sign of like how he just treats people. When he's out eating with his family or with you or whoever he's with, there's always going to be this like common person that's a waiter. And I feel like how he treats that person is always going to be pretty consistent.
Right. Because he could be putting up a facade with other aspects of the date, right? But when it comes to treating the waiter, it's something that's so second nature. It's a good evaluation of how he truly is with someone.
Yes, exactly.
It can also be a gauge for how their temperament, right? Because I'm not very good with people who get angry very easily. And I remember there was this one date where we were at a bar, and the bartender was not rude, but he just wasn't super attentive and kind of like brushing us off. And usually how I handle that situation is, because I'm like, we were grabbing one drink, we're probably gonna go somewhere else. I was like, yeah, this isn't cool, but at the same time, like, I don't want to make it a thing.
Yeah.
And he was like, oh no. But instead of like addressing it, he just kind of made like comments. Like he was talking to me, insulting the guy, and I knew the guy could hear us. I was just like, this is uncomfortable.
Oh my gosh.
Like,
Yeah. Vibes.
Yeah, so I don't know that. But I mean, to the flip side, I understand for a guy, it's like you want to be able to stand up for yourself, right? Like, so if the waiter is repeatedly not giving you good service and then the guy is like not going to say anything, that's not attractive either. I don't want him to be someone that's walked all over. But yeah, but maybe if you're going to be super like aggressive, that's a good way for me to measure like, ooh, I'm not very good with super aggressive people. So
That's a good note.
Yeah. Oh, one other thing. So the last night it was at a really nice restaurant in Santa Monica, and there was like a lot of good-looking people that were ready to go out that night, right? One thing that I noticed was that his attention never drifted from me, despite, because I was even looking, I was like, dang, she looks good. But like his attention was always just like directly on me, and he never drifted.
Yeah.
So
That's
like,
a really
that's
good
sign.
yeah. It feels pretty shitty if you're on a date and the guy's like checking out other people, you know.
Yeah. I mean, that's clearly a no, but like even I was like, wow, these people look good.
I would be like, can we go somewhere darker next time?
Like the beach at night.
Hey, I did that. Damn, was that on purpose then?
So say the date goes really, really well. You're attracted to him. He's attracted to you. You guys are maybe even holding hands, but you haven't kissed yet, right? It's the end of the date. What do you prefer that he does?
I don't know if I have a pretty firm no kiss on the first date, but I usually don't like to kiss on the first date. I want to save that for another occasion.
So what if he goes in for the first kiss?
I would probably do the cheek move.
Oh, turn your head.
Yeah, I
and
just
then
meant,
get
you know, honestly, like, I really had a good time, but I'd rather take things slow.
See, I feel like that's the right answer and the better answer. But for me, I feel like if I feel attracted, I'm okay with doing. Okay, this sounds horrible. I was like, I'm okay with doing anything in the first date.
That's okay.
But it's. I mean, I think that it is really rare that I find chemistry with someone. So if we have chemistry there, I'm okay with carrying it through, right? More recently, I've tried to be a little bit more like cut the line at a certain point. But I think kissing is like. I think kissing's okay. The only time I will do the cheek turn or like avoiding the head is if I'm not feeling it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I won't initiate physical stuff, but if the guy initiates it and I am feeling like mutual, then I'm okay with it happening.
I actually never had a guy try to kiss me on the first date. I think because they could read my social cues. I'm like, oh, I had a really good time.
Yeah.
Because I would linger a little longer if I wanted it. I'm a big fan of build-up. I always like to build up to sex, let's be real, or to a kiss. I just like the anticipation for it. It makes it more exciting for me. Just thinking about it, I'm just getting excited. Oh, wait. Not like that. Helen, how about you?
So when I was younger, I for sure wouldn't have sex until we were boyfriend, girlfriend. And that wasn't until like these past couple of years where I no longer follow that rule. But I think kissing on the first date is still okay. Like if it went really well and my breath don't stink or his breath don't stink.
You could put like air freshener in your mouth.
Then I would, and he leans in like, you know, hitched 90-10. I'll go 10. Yeah. You can't like come 100. If it becomes 100, my face will be like, no.
Yeah.
I feel like the ideal kisses I've had are not at the end of the date. It's like some point during the date. Right?
Oh.
Because if we haven't kissed until then probably I'm like not super feeling it. So if it happens more naturally, like in conversation but usually it's like if it's a good date, it's like a good 5 to 6 hours that you're hanging out with each other.
Yeah. Because I was thinking like in the middle of the date, that's like not too long into it. And then if his face is coming at you, you're like, is your face just falling towards me or are you trying to kiss me?
Because I'm trying to see how that would happen.
Yeah, like what moment?
Because my usual first dates are like sit down.
Right. Yeah.
So I'm not like climbing over the table for a kiss, you know?
And this like if you're at a bar together, right?
Okay,
so maybe it's like you had dinner and you went out for drinks, and so you're close enough in proximity where that can happen. Yeah, and I think that if it's all the way till the end of the date, and I have like had that kiss and then it was really anticlimactic, but usually by then I also don't like, I'm not really feeling like it.
Do you like when they ask?
That's cute.
Yes. Yeah. I do think that like asking for permission, I'm a little bit flipped on that because like depending on how it's asked, sometimes I'm like, I would rather you just do it versus like asking for permission. But then if it's a first date, that's a situation where it's good for that to happen because they're trying to respect and like gauge your space since you guys don't know each other that well yet, right?
Yes, consent. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, I don't do like anything on the first date, but second day I'll do stuff.
So, okay, so then that's a good point. Like, the
Yeah.
difference between the first date and the second date, is it about pacing of time, or like, why is it that you want?
I think it's two things. Pacing, because you guys know how I am with like things speeding up too fast. Another thing is I'm so aware that I don't ever want to come off as that girl that you could just fuck. So on the first day, I make sure I do nothing to like showcase any of that. Because I just don't. I'm not saying that, you know, like having sex on the first date is bad or good. It's just more like I just don't want.
You don't want to give off that
I don't want to give
impression.
that impression that I'm that type of girl, and I'm really not. So that's why I don't.
That's a
the
good.
reason why.
I feel like I should care about that, but I don't.
But you know what it is? I think because, like, Janet, we dress differently. I'm a little more skin sometimes when I go out versus you wear sweaters.
Right.
So I think if you compare both of us, I'm more easily to be typecasted as that girl.
I see. Interesting.
So when
you're
I go
more
on,
cautious. That's true.
So when I go on dates, like, because I date for like long term, I don't want to give off that impression to a guy. So I'm a little more careful with physical intimacy.
You're like, I look like I want it, but I don't.
I don't.
And I'm like, I look like I don't, but I do.
No, but I'm not saying I wear like a skinky ass dress on the first date, but I'm just saying like I wear clothes. But for sex, I agree with Helen that now you don't need to be my boyfriend to have sex, but I need to be dating you exclusively.
Yeah.
Right.
Because for me, sex is like not everyone gets on my vagina.
Yeah.
So I have to be a little more careful.
I think that now that I view dating more seriously in terms of like specifically looking for a partner, I personally would like to like hold off a little bit more. But I've had definite periods in my life where I'm dating more just to date.
Yeah.
And even if I said I was looking for something long term, like I was still okay with the idea of having like a fling or just like dating one a couple times. So in those instances, I was more like, if I feel a connection, I'm okay with it, right? Yeah. But yeah, I agree that I think that sex does definitely change the dynamic of a relationship. And if you're looking for something long term, maybe, you know, not doing it the first time you meet each other is a good way to go.
Mel, just give yourself like 5 years or so. You'll
then you'll
change. You'll be wearing sweaters and you'll be
I'll be open up other things. No.
So this was our perspective as late 20s / early 30s dating. First dates, our deal makers or deal breakers. Let us know in the comments or email us if you agree with what we brought up during this episode.
You can reach us at asianbossgirl@gmail.com, or you can check us out on our website, asianbossgirl.com. We're also on iTunes, Stitcher, a bunch of different podcasting platforms, so subscribe and we'll just pop up in your feed.
Also, we are active on social media. We have Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, so you can check us out at Asian Boss Girl.
So we'll talk to you guys next time.
Bye.